What's going on, guys? Welcome to the penultimate episode of my top 40 games of all time. I'm the games adjuster Ethan Rodriguez, and today we're talking top 20 through 11. And so if you haven't seen them already, check out the top 40 through 31, as well as the top 30 through 20. I will want to mention this real quick before we go any further. When I say top 40 games of all time, these are my top 40 games of all time, my personal favorites. If you're looking for the objective list of the masses, you can check that out on Board Game Geek, but that's readily available. And so if you're looking for a different take on things, you've come to the right place. This is my top 40 games, my personal favorites that I'll be sharing. So we don't want to take too much more in preamble. We've done that enough in the last two videos. We're going to jump right into it with my number 20. So number 20 is going to be a game I don't own. And this one is owned by my brother-in-law, actually, and we played it over there quite a few times, and I really enjoy it. And that is going to be Galaxy Trucker by CGE, Czech Games Edition. And so Galaxy Trucker is a game by Vlada Chvátil, and that's a real-time element to it. Basically what you're doing is there is a space quest that you are going on, where you'll be having to have certain resources to get past certain events. You'll need to trade in resources at the end of that to get money, and basically the person with the most money after 3 rounds is going to be the winner. And so the real-time aspect is the most interesting part. What you'll be doing is there's a pile of components that you'll be building your spaceship with. And the first round of the game, you'll have a small spaceship. In the second round, your spaceship will get a little bit bigger. And in the third round, there'll be the biggest ship with the most opportunities for adding different guns and engines and shields, cabins just to store different like people and aliens that you might encounter, cargo space, places where you'll need to store batteries to power your shields or maybe your guns and your engines. And so that's the best part of this, the real-time element of pour this big pile of pieces face down. You're using one arm to grab these components and place them into your ship. Once they're placed, and you're just trying to build the best ship you can while also managing the time that is passing, because as soon as someone is done, they'll start flipping over this round timer, and that will accelerate the game until everybody has to be done, whether you finish your ship or not, and you'll go on your journey. And so as you are going through that, you're looking for the best pieces that are going to have the most different outlets that will match the components that you want to put on it. You're trying to also maybe take a peek at those quests that you'll be going on, so you'll kind of know what you need. And then once that's done, you're just off on your journey. And at that point, it is a little bit of a luck fest in the way that they order the things that come out. Basically, sometimes you'll run across asteroids maybe, and you'll have to roll a die, and you'll check your board and see where that asteroid might hit, depending on if you have shields or if you've got blasters. Maybe you can deflect some of that damage. If you don't, it's possible that you might hit the perfect spot that has not been closed off and you lose half of your ship. And so it can be quite devastating, can be a little punishing if you don't build your ship correctly or you just get really unlucky. But that's also part of the fun, right? It's fun to just build this spaceship in front of you, go on that journey. Hopefully things turn out well. Sometimes they won't, but that's just, again, part of the experience. So I really enjoyed. If that sounds fun to you, you should check it out. That is going to be Galaxy Trucker by Czech Games Edition, my number 20. So number 19, and I will have most of the games on this top 10 except for one more game. And so number 19 is one I do have, and that is my sandbox game of choice, and that is Western Legends. And so Western Legends, this is by Colossal Games. It is just that, again, a sandbox game, and this is a Western sandbox theme. So I have played Merchants and Marauders, the pirate sandbox game. I have not yet tried, I almost played Zaya, the space sandbox game. Played a couple more, but this is my personal favorite. So in Western Legends, you are an outlaw or maybe a marshal, and you can kind of choose what path you go down as far as being a good guy or a bad guy. And you are just out in the Wild West in this small town, really in this valley between two towns, if you have the expansion, a third area. But you are just going along, trying to get the most legendary points. And you can get legendary points by gambling and getting money. And so you can go to the casino or the saloon and play poker against the game or other players, win hands of poker and get some legendary points by turning in money. You can go and just kind of revel with that money and just spend it to go party and shout about how awesome you are. You can get on the wanted track by being a criminal and rustling cattle and defeating bandits and fighting people and stealing money. And you can go up the wanted track and you get more legendary points the longer you're on that track and more wanted points, but you risk going to jail. And that's the other way you can get points too, is by being a good guy and being on the martial track, and you'll get some in-game points for that, but you'll also have the ability to arrest other players and send them to jail, and then you could even switch from being a good guy to a bad guy in the middle of the game. So there's a lot of choices in what you can do and how you want to build your legend. But that's the best part is just that idea of you can be whatever you want to be. You can be good. You can be a bad. You can switch mid-game, at least from good to bad. You can't switch from bad to good until you get arrested and you start fresh. And there's so much variety to when you get the expansions. And so I do have the expansion in this box. I did back the Kickstarter with the Blood Money expansion. I'm very excited for that. Hoping to have that. Really, what I'm most excited for is obviously the new content, but a comprehensive rule book. Sometimes when you get so many expansions, it's hard to sort out how you set up the game with the different options that there are and what order of operations you need to follow. And so very excited for that. And that's just going to add more variety. Already you've got the Buzzard Canyon. You've got the train you can rob now with the first expansion. You've got more players, upgraded components. There's just a ton to love about this game, a ton of variety to enjoy, and it's just a great sandbox game. So if you are looking for a sandbox game to check out, I highly recommend Western Legends by Colossal Games, my number 19. Okay, so number 18 is my favorite abstract game, and that is War Chest. So War Chest is published by AEG, and this is one of the best produced games I have in my collection. So right off the bat, you'll see, of course, this nice War Chest. It's got this magnetic clasp, and in this game, you have these nice bags. You've also got these beautiful poker chips, and these poker chips represent your units in the game. And so in War Chest, it's got a little bit of chess-like abstract movement, taking pieces, but it's also got a little bit of bag building, which is the most, innovative part about this game is that combination. Not often do you see, bag building with a abstract game, but in this game it works very well. So at the beginning of the game, you'll set out 8 units that you'll be using. This box, I do already have both the Nobility and the Siege expansions, which add just more variety and a few new mechanisms. But the core game, again, and even with those expansions, it remains the same. You'll be getting 8 total units to choose from. You'll be drafting 4 of them, or you can use the preset battles that they have in the rulebook. And then once the 2 players or 4 players draft those units, then you are ready to play. And I'm using 8 units in a 2-player game. I'm not sure if it's more in the 4-player. I have not actually tried the 4-player game of this. I look at it more as a 2-player only game, but you certainly can play it 4. But at any rate, you will get your units. You'll start your bag full of 1 unit or 2 units apiece, and then you will throw in a royal coin or the royal decree coin, and you're off to play. And so you'll draw 3 coins per round, and then you'll either place those coins onto the board as new units. You can place matching coins to bolster a unit that already exists, or you can use that unit coin to maneuver that unit, either attacking another unit or moving it on the board. And the object of the game, in a 2-player game at least, is just to control 6 of these control zones. And so you're constantly reevaluating what your opponent's going to do, what do they possibly have in their hand, what tactical decision do I need to make this round with my coins? Do I need to spend 1 face down to just add more into my bag later on? do I need to go ahead and attack them because I don't think they can attack me back right now? If I move, can I attack them next turn with this next coin I have in my hand, or do they have the one that's going to attack me? And you have to read your opponent and what they're going to do. And you have to pay attention to the abilities, because not only are these coins, beautiful to look at, and again, very nice quality, they have awesome powers associated with them. So you have like a crossbowman that can shoot 2 away, but it can't shoot in between. And you've got an archer that can shoot also 2 away, but it can shoot in between. However, it cannot attack people right next to them. You've got the swordsman that can move and then attack. You've got other units like a scout that can just pop onto the board next to an adjacent friendly unit instead of having to pop out on these control zones. And so every unit gives you more and more flexibility and unique combos that you can work together depending on the team that you draft. And that's not including the units that are in the nobility expansion, which kind of tie into these decree cards that you can use once per turn and gives a better use to the 1 royal coin that you have in your bag. You've also got the siege expansion, which now gives you fortifications on those control zones that you may need to contend with, and those will be laid out appropriately, and you'll have even units that can add more to fortifications. So it's a fun, simple, abstract game with a ton of variety. I do love chess. I do love Onitama, as I mentioned before, but I love this one more. It's a beautiful production. It's so tactical. Every game feels unique. Every game feels different. And it's just definitely one that if you are into abstract games, you owe it to yourself to try it out. It's my personal favorite, and that is War Chest, my number 18. All right. Moving right along, now I've got a couple of engine building games. And so the first I'm going to go over is a game called Fantastic Factories. And so this is my number 17. This is by Meta Factory Games. And in this game, you are basically just rolling dice, building an engine with cards, and using those dice as a dice placement mechanism on those cards or on your starting board to get points. And so the points in this game are represented by goods that you'll be producing with your factories. And so at the end of the game, once a certain amount of factories are put out, or you've generated a number of good tokens, you're going to count the points being the good tokens you've produced, as well as the factory cards you placed out that have their own point values. And so the game is very simple, and you'll see that as a common theme. I do love heavier games, but I like the games to be elegant in the way that they are streamlined. The heaviness isn't necessarily in the rules overhead and how much of, or how the engines and mechanisms work together. It doesn't have to be convoluted to be a heavy game. It can be heavy in the mind. It can be heavy as, how do I work out this efficiency puzzle? How can I, manipulate my die or manipulate the cards, or, what in an economic game, the money and things like that to come out on top. And so that's kind of the theme that I really bring. I know I mentioned a lot of games are simple, but that's why, because sometimes, there's beauty and simplicity. And in this game, it's just that. So you'll basically, in the beginning of every round, you'll draft some cards, and those can be either different workers that can give you one-time benefits for the round, or different cards that you'll add to your hand. And then after that, you're simultaneously playing. You roll your 3 dice, and then you will see what you can do with those dice. You can generate more resources on your starting board. If you have factories already out that say, hey, if you roll a 6, you get a good, you can put that die on that card, produce the good, and then you'll have to spend cards from your hand to play even more cards out in those resources that you gather. And so it's a very simple, again, engine building game that's fun and quick. And again, it's got that simultaneous head down aspect. If you're looking for more interaction, you're not going to find that here. It is kind of doing your own thing. But doing your own little puzzle by yourself is really fun. And this is one of the few games, too, that is not a dedicated solo game for me, that I do enjoy playing solo. It's got a great solo mode where you'll flip some cards, you'll assign them to the AI, you'll roll the colored dice, see if they put new cards out, same game in triggers basically, and you can see how well you'll do against the AI. And so it is easy to administer, and I do enjoy that in my solo games, is easy administration, and I don't like that feeling of the game playing me. And so if that's another aspect you're looking for, it's a simple engine building game to play. It's simple to play by yourself if you want to, and that's why I really enjoy it. So that is Fantastic Factories, my number 17. I did back the Kickstarter for this one as well. I am super excited for that. It's going to add more cards, a little bit more interaction, which, maybe take it or leave it. I'm not really sure. I do enjoy the kind of solo puzzle that this one presents, but I am excited for it, and I'm really looking forward to that. So again, that's my 17, Fantastic Factories by Meta Factory Games. All right, so number 16 is a very interactive game, and that is Oceans by North Star Game Studio. And so Oceans is another implementation of the Evolution series. I've never played the original Evolution or Evolution Climate or Evolution The New Beginning, but I was very interested in those games. I do like the theme of them. They're focused on, the science behind evolution, and put that into the theme of the game, and not only, the presentation, but the mechanisms, talking about animals that will start with certain characteristics, and you can play cards to give them new characteristics and evolve them basically to be better suited for the different climates, or to eat in different ways, whether it be herbivores or carnivores or omnivores that do both. And so this is, again, an evolution on the Evolution game series, and this is the newest one called Oceans. And in this one, you're doing a very similar thing where you're trying to create these different species with cards, but you're doing it underwater. And so in this game, what I really love about it is artwork first and foremost. You can see on the back here how awesome this artwork is. It's just got some kind of kraken, squid, octopus type creature. On the front as well, you've got this really bright, beautiful artwork. There's a ton of artists that submitted art for this game. And so some people might not like that there's different art, and you can tell that they are very different. But I really enjoy it. I love looking at the art pieces on the cards and enjoying the different kind of styles that are presented here. But on top of that, again, is the game. So in the game, you start with, I think it's 12 basic characteristics. Speed, whale feeders, or like the shark feeders, like the little animals that are on those bigger animals and kind of eat the scraps. You've got some that are able to eat just from the reef, as far as these little fish that are there. You've got others that can kind of have to be carnivorous and eat other species. And so you're building these cards, or building these species in front of you, and they all work together. They all coexist in this ecosystem that the players create, because you might have a card that says, this card, when it activates, it will take a fish from the player to the left, or the species to the left. And so that species could be your own, in which case you are maybe producing a lot of fish on one fish or one species, and then you're having the symbiotic relationship where the one next to it starts eating from it. But it could also be another player. So maybe they have someone who's creating a lot of fish, and you don't necessarily have that in your ecosystem. So you will create an animal that's carnivorous and can eat those fish from the other player, so that you can get points. And then they might recognize that and do something about it by having someone who can cancel that out by eating the fish right back off of you. So it is a little take that in that sense, and that you can really kind of mess up someone's plans by eating their fish and making it so that they basically starve when it comes to their turn, and then they get discarded. Which, if you don't like the interaction, you may not like that about this game, because it is definitely present, and it's definitely one of the winning strategies. Of course, it is, if I take your food, you're not getting any points, I'm getting the points, and vice versa. So keep that in mind, again, if this is a recommendation list for you. But if you like that interaction and the engine building aspect, then you're really going to enjoy Oceans. And that's just, the base game. On this game too, you have this, the deep deck. I forget the name of it, but basically there's a separate deck of cards, a huge stack of cards that has all unique species and special powers. Some of them will greatly increase the amount of fish you can hold. Some of them will greatly increase the number of fish that you can eat. Some of them will give you maybe camouflage so that you can't be eaten off of by someone else. Others will give you maybe an attacking ability. If someone takes fish from you, then you can attack them back. There's a ton of variety. sometimes, they don't always work out because they can be expensive to play. You have to spend basically points to play them, but they are very powerful. And so that just gives you another element to consider is when I'm getting more cards, do I just get more of those basic 12? Or do I maybe go to that deck, see if I can get something that's really awesome, and then use that? And in that, you create more unique circumstances, as well as just the reef itself. The reef has these different cards that will be there, and they will change what will happen when you empty out different zones of the reef itself, and then these different ocean zones. And so, again, it's just a beautiful game, very interactive engine building system. If you enjoy that, if you enjoyed the Evolution games, you should definitely check this one out. That is Oceans by North Star Game Studio. Whew. Okay, so going to jump into my number 15 now. And this one might surprise you based on the games that I've mentioned so far. But like I said, I do like some heavy games. And then this one is a heavy train game, and that is 1830. And so 1830 is one of the classic 18XX games. This is one that kind of starts as a family of the 1846s, and there's a ton that kind of spin off of this. This is the Lookout Games printing. It's a little bit better than the original one, and it's a game that I really, really, really enjoy. It's probably, I think, my favorite economic game. And so I don't get to play it as often as I would like. It is a little bit long, and it is an 18XX game. So it's a lot of math. It can be kind of mean if someone takes the route that you were planning to take and maybe sticks you with trains and things like that. So some people might be put off by the long time commitment of the game, the lots of math, and the interaction, but not me. I really enjoy that part. In 1830, just like most 18XX games, you will start with a private company. You will start with that company, and you'll be able to use that power whenever until you get rid of it. And then after that, you're basically interacting with the other players using the starting money you have to float different companies. And you'll set the price to float them, and then you'll put that money in the company's treasury, and you'll be using that money as the company to be purchasing new trains and purchasing routes, things like that that can help you to generate money. And so other players can invest in that company and buy stocks. And in that, they will help raise the price of that company. And then you'll eventually, they'll get to a point where as players buy more and more trains, you will need to buy new trains because the old trains will begin to rust. And so you'll need to constantly be looking at, okay, my company that I'm invested in is going to need to buy a new train. I've got the majority stocks in this, so I'm the president of the company. But Sally over here has a lot of stocks too. She doesn't really have that much money herself, nor does the company have that much money. So maybe I should dump all my shares, plummet the stock price, and then make her majority shareholder so that she has to take the ownership or the responsibility of buying a new train when the current one rusts. And the robber baron part comes in with this private companies you start with. You can sell those to the companies that you're operating using that money and then selling that company off to another player. So you're selling this private company, you're getting a ton of money from the company you just invested in, and then you're leaving that company high and dry with nothing, giving it to another player who unwittingly held on to stocks when they shouldn't have, and now they have to buy new trains for that company, and they have to use their own personal money. And that's what's so interesting is you're invested in these companies, you're watching the stocks, you're hoping to get dividends from companies that are doing well, but you don't want to hold on for them for too long. You need to know when is the time to get out of this company, when should I, basically rob from the company by selling my private company or paying out dividends one last time and then dumping it on someone else so that they have to deal with the company and use their personal money. Because at the end of the game, the winner is the person who has the most personal money and the value of their stocks at the time of the end game. And so, you need to constantly look at that. That's what's so cutthroat about it and maybe puts people off. But I just love it. I just love that constant, what are people doing? What do I need to pay dividends? Maybe I should hold back the money. Should I invest in that company? I don't know. There's about to be a train rush here, so maybe I need to just dump it now while I still can. it's just a ton to think about, and it's just highly interactive, and I thoroughly enjoy it. So if you're scared of 18xx games, don't be. This is a great one to start with. The rule set's pretty simple. Once you just read through it a few times, and it sounds like a lot, a few times. I'm talking, maybe 2 times, just really thoroughly read through it. Watch some videos online. There's several videos on this, and you'll pick it up. And as long as you have players that are dedicated to learning it too, and just understanding the way the stock chart works, the rest of the game is pretty simple. One part of the phase, you'll lay track. Another part of the phase, you'll operate your train, and then you'll decide to pay dividends or not. And then there's just the stock buying round where you can buy some stock one round, go around, you can sell the stock again, buy new stock, whatever you want to do. And so it's really not that complex a game as far as rules go. It is, again, like I talked about earlier, it's more about the complexity in the decisions you make and when to invest or not invest or dump it or sell it, whatever that is. So again, if you enjoy that, if that sounds very interesting to you, you should check it out. That is my number 15, 1830 by Lookout Games. All right, we are down to number 14 in this list. And this is a money game, not an economic game really, more of a negotiation trading game. And that is Chinatown. This is the Z-Man Games printing here. And so Chinatown is a very unique game. And it's my favorite, other than, if you make a non-negotiation game, a negotiation game, and we'll talk about more of that later. But this is my favorite, like, pure negotiation money game. And so in Chinatown, you'll be drafting these lots first, right? So you'll dip out a number of cards based on the number of players, and players will draft these lots. And these lots are numbered 1 through 85, I believe. And so these lots are in different districts, basically, of the board. And what you're trying to do is get lots that connect together, because in the next part of the game, you'll be drafting tiles from this bag that will have numbers printed on them to represent how large that building can be. So you might have dim sum of 5 or a Photoshop of 3, which means if I get 3 Photoshops orthogonally adjacent next to each other, I'm going to get extra money than if I had 3 separate Photoshops not connected to each other. And so you're trying to get these lots that are next to yourself so that you don't have to trade with other people. But sometimes the cards aren't that nice. And so you'll draw a hand of maybe 5 cards, have to pick 3 of them or 4 of them, and none of them are close by. And at that point, you have to consider, what are my opponents building, especially later in the game? How much is this lot worth to them? And that's the best part about the game, is you are looking at what the opponents are doing and making those trades, even while you're drafting. Like, I've got this card here that could be good for them, so let me hold on to this one. I really don't need number 34, let's say, but my brother does, or maybe Sally or Bob do. And how much are they willing to pay me? Maybe they'll trade me number 76, which they held on to last turn, since I have 77 and 78. And we can make a trade where I'll give them 34, they'll give me those 2, and I'll throw in a Photoshop maybe. Or maybe I'll just give them straight cash. And there's tons of trades you can do. So once they're all revealed, you pick your lots, you set your tokens out, you've drawn the bag, from the tile bag of the different businesses that you have, you reveal them all, and then it's no holds barred, straight negotiation. Yelling across the table, hey, don't talk to her, don't talk to him, talk to me, I'll sell you this. Don't worry about that, I'll make you a better deal. No, you shouldn't take that deal, it's terrible. I'll make you, this is a better deal. Or, sometimes you're making these 3-way trades or even 4-way trades. I get this, you get that from him, she gets that from her, he gets that from her. We're all happy. And so it's just mayhem whenever those tiles flip over and everybody starts. But it's just awesome. It's so I don't know what the word is. It's not intense. It's just, yeah, I guess it is intense. It's just a constant, like, everybody's yelling at each other, trying to do what they can and make the best deals. And you're playing that over 6 rounds. So it's one of those adrenaline-inducing kind of games, I guess, in the sense that you've got so much energy when that's happening. But you get a chance to breathe, and then you go again, almost like a real-time game, because it is. It's like real-time strategy, or negotiation. You don't want to get so laser focused on one deal that you miss out what deals are happening over here, because maybe someone's getting swindled, and you're trying to prevent that by saying, well, hold on, I'll make you a better deal, or don't take that deal, or can you believe what they're doing? If we don't do something now, they're going to win. We got to make a better deal. So it is called The Art of Trading, and it's just that. It's the art of trading. It's the art of negotiation. Shut Up and Sit Down did a really good video about this, Quentin Smith. So if you're wanting more information, that's a good video to check out. I do enjoy that channel too. And so they just nailed it, talking about the value of a lot and what it's worth now is much more than what it might be worth later. Because if you draft that lot on your own later, then you don't need it anymore from someone else, and their lot becomes worth nothing. And that is just a key concept that you have to keep in mind in this game, which makes it thoroughly enjoyable. And so again, that is my number 14, Chinatown, and that is by Z-Man Games. Whew. Sorry guys, if I'm talking too fast, I'll try to slow it down. So 13 is another game I don't have, and this is one of the first heavier Euro games that I had played. And this is, many years ago, 6 or 7 years ago. And this is called Tzolk'in, the Mayan calendar. And this is also by Czech Games Edition CGE. And so in Tzolk'in, you've probably heard of it. It's probably Daniele Tassini's most famous game. And basically what you're doing is worker placement. You put these workers on a board, but not just a normal flat board. It's got a 3D gear system on the board. And these workers are committed to these gears for a certain amount of time, depending on when you decide to pull them off. And the gears work so that when they shift, every worker moves forward, and the action that they're associated with now becomes more powerful. So the balance in the game is, when do I take my workers and put them on? Where do I put them on? Because I can accelerate where they land on this thing by paying more money or more corn. But also, I want them to take this action, but I'm running low, so I have to take workers back if I don't have anybody to place. When should I take them back? Should I keep them on the wheel? Should I pay to have them on there longer? Or should I take them back now and pivot and do something else? And so it's a very awesome game. This using time as almost a resource is, how long can I afford them to be on this gear, be on this wheel, and not available to me? Is it worth it for them to be on there that long? Or again, do I need to pivot so I can go up this other track by trying something else? And it's just an awesome production too. I mean, it's a very cool theme. It's, obviously the Mayan culture, and I'm always kind of a sucker for those kind of ancient civilization themes. And it's really well done. The board is really nice. This gear I don't think it's ever been done since. It's so unique, this 3D element, and it's, it's the wow factor of the game, and it works very well. So it is a classic kind of going up different tracks, temple tracks, getting tons of bonuses. It's a very rewarding game. You get stuff for going up this track. You'll get stuff for being on the wheel and pulling it off. You do have to feed your people, so that can be kind of tough sometimes, but there are ways to reduce how much you have to feed them. There's an expansion, I think it's Tribes and Prophecies, that will give you better starting resources and things to kind of maybe influence how you proceed throughout the game. And so, yeah, Tzolk'in is just, it's a classic. It's, I think, maybe on the top 100 on BGG. If not, it's probably close. I think it definitely is, though. There's been several iterations since from the same designers, including Teotihuacan, Tawantinsuyo. Well, Tawantinsuyo is not him, it's David Turksey by himself. But the whole T series basically is kind of Daniele Tassini, I think Simone Luciani, and some other folks. And they're just really well done. I played Teotihuacan. I own Tawantinsuyo, again, different designer technically, but kind of the same idea. But Tzolk'in is still my favorite. And so if you're looking for a T game to check out, definitely try hunting down Tzolk'in. It's my personal favorite. Teotihuacan's close. I'm very interested in Tekhenu. But again, Tzolk'in is the one. So that is my number 13, Tzolk'in the Mayan Calendar by CGE. And so number 12, and the rest of these I will have, the last two. Number 12 is a very unique game. There's not many like it, and it is also one of the first games that I had personally purchased, and that is Five Tribes, designed by Bruno Cathala and published by Days of Wonder. So Five Tribes is my real first introduction to Mancala. I had never even played Mancala. After this, I bought a board and played it, and that's an okay game. I know it's a classic too, but this is just a very, cool to look at, colorful, lots of meeples, Mancala mechanism game. And so what you'll be doing is creating the board, and in this I do have all three expansions, the Whims of the Sultan, the Artisans of Nakala, and I've also got the Thieves of Nakala, maybe. I forget the name of this place, but that one's a tiny little expansion. So if you just have the other two, that's what the third one is. It's really not worth hunting down. But in those two expansions is a ton of variety. So you'll build the board out. Base game, it's a smaller map, this size map here. The other expansions add more of a bigger map, and that's probably the one con to this game, is the setup can be kind of long because you build the map out. There are some rules and parameters you need to follow with that map because it is modular tiles that you put out, and they have certain distance restrictions and things like that. But once you build the map, you'll then need to see the map with a bunch of meeples, and then you're ready to start. So that part can be kind of long. Sometimes is why it doesn't get to the table as often. But once you get going, you're reminded of why you own it and why you love it. So in Five Tribes, you will have this board of meeples, and you'll choose one area to take the meeples from, and you'll need to drop them off in an orthogonal direction, not repeating or double back on yourself until you go all the way around, until you've dropped off one meeple that from the spot you started in all the different places, and making sure that you drop off in the last place with a maple that matches the color of a meeple that's already present. And so once you've done that, you'll activate the ability of the place. You'll take all the colored meeples off that you matched with. You activate those abilities, and then you may or may not be able to clear off that tile to claim it. And the abilities are, then there's tons of them. So you've got the yellow ones and the white ones that can be stored in front of you and just give you in-game points. The yellow ones give you a majority bonus for having the most at the end. The white ones help you to buy these gens, which give you game-breaking powers and extra points by themselves. You've got the green ones, which will give you these market cards that kind of give you a cascading scoring ability at the end of the game based on the different sets of unique market cards that you have. You've got the red ones, which are like assassins, and they can basically take off other units or other meeples on the board, and in that help you to claim these different territories, because the board tiles themselves will give you points. And you've also got the green or the blue ones, which will also give you a bunch of money, and which are spent to get turn order, but also are your points at the end. And then that's not including the expansion ones. So I know it's called Five Tribes, but there is actually a sixth meeple, and that's the purple ones, which give you these different artisan meeples, and they can help you get different items. The Whims of the Sultan has these palaces that you can take ownership of, and they give you like 15 points per palace you have. So the more of them you have, the more each one of them scores. And it's just this huge puzzle of, okay, it's my turn to bid, let's say, even in that part. Do I want to go first? If I want to go first, how many points am I willing to spend to make sure I do go first? Because the bidding for turn order is predetermined amount, so it kind of skips from like 0 to 1 to 3 to 5 to 10 to 18 up to. So you have to decide, how much is it worth to go first. In a two-player game, you actually get 2 pawns, so you can go back to back if you want to. So you have to make that decision. And then if you don't, let's say you're second or third turn order, you might have a plan already to move all the meeples from one area to this other area 3 tiles away, but then someone has dropped off units in that area, and now they've thrown off your whole plan. So you have to reconsider, okay, where can I go now? What's the best point scoring now? And that can lead to AP. I'll mention that too, and I know I've mentioned a few cons with this, but I like to be honest. It's not a problem for me because I might be the one prone to do that because I do want to maximize my points. And it's more prevalent at the end, but also at the end you run out of options because the meeples are gone now. So you only have a few options left. At the beginning of the game is the most options, and it feels like that should be the most AP, but it really is. You just kind of have to pick somewhere to start and go. I think Hunter Thomason from the Family Showdown did this math on it as to how many different combinations there were in the beginning move, and it was like some astronomical number. But it doesn't feel that way. You just kind of look at the board, pick which way you're going to go. Are you going to get the cards? Are you going to get the assassins? Are you going to go straight for money, or whatever it is you're going for? You pick your path and you go, and then you just enjoy the puzzle of it. Again, just that reevaluating what's my best move right now. There's tons of moves out there. Which one is the best? And so that is Five Tribes, my number 12. Absolutely love it, and you should definitely check it out. Okay, and the last one for this list, which is the 20 through 11, is my number 11, my only Uwe Rosenberg game on this list, and that is A Feast for Odin. So this is my favorite Uwe Rosenberg game. This is published by Z-Man Games, and I played Agricola. I liked Agricola. It's just a very cool worker placement game where you kind of have the sandbox building your own little garden, and you can have pins with animals and all kinds of stuff. But it's very punishing. You don't select the right cars to start with at the beginning of the game, or if you don't get the extra workers, then it becomes hard to kind of feed your people and do what you need to do, and you can kind of get steamrolled. Plus, it doesn't give you as sandboxy as it is the different scoring options, because you kind of have to do a little bit of everything so you don't get negative points. I've also played Caverna. I did like Caverna a little bit more than Agricola. Only played it once though, so I couldn't really speak too much about it, but I did enjoy like the dwarves theme and kind of doing the similar things. But Feast for Odin, I've really enjoyed. It does still kind of give you those negative points, but everybody's getting the same negative points at the beginning of the game. And so from there, it's, how can I avoid the negative points by filling basically this board here. And so these are all the negative points. You'll be filling this with different polyomino shapes. You'll have little small ones. You'll have some bigger ones. I do have the expansion in here as well, which is the Norwegians, which gives you even more different shapes that you can use. There's pigs that are kind of shaped like a U. There's horses. There are more islands. There's just a ton of things you're doing. And this kind of claim to fame here for this game is not only this little polyomino section that you're working on, but the fact that it's got like 60 plus worker placement spots. And at first it kind of seems daunting, like, 60 spots, that's crazy. How am I supposed to know what to do? But they lay it out so well. The different spaces are associated with different categories and things that they do. Some are worth, good for trading, where you'll basically trade in the resources you have for larger tiles or different size, different shaped tiles. Some are good for immigrating, where you can send your boats off, you'll flip your boat over and you'll put it onto your board, and that minimizes how much you need to feed at the end of each round. Some are good for buying new islands, hunting and gathering. There's a little bit of luck in this Euro game where you can roll some dice and hopefully you'll be able to pillage or hunt or gather whatever it is you need to do. There's just a ton of different options, and so like the other games, you have to feed your workers. Like the other games, it's sandboxy, but it doesn't feel as punishing as, let's say, in Agricola. It feels like you always have a good choice to make. You always can, even if you fail like the rolls, let's say, you get your resources that you spent back if you fail. So it never feels like you're totally stuck doing nothing. There's a whole slew of cards that you can start with that give you different occupations and different powers that you can do. So you can, get those at the beginning of the game, decide to play them. Maybe you're the super fish king and you'll just do fishing the whole game, or you'll be a whale hunter, and in that you can get a lot of points. And while someone else maybe is, breeding animals, they have cows and they have sheep and then they have the pigs and the horses, and they're just breeding those every round and then using those tiles, using the upgrade action and the trade action thematically to bring those cows into market, trade them with someone else who's got gold or a treasure chest, and you're putting those treasure chests on your polyomino board. And you start with a ton of workers. I think you start with like 6, and you'll get 10 or 12 by the end of the game. It's just, rich get richer for everybody, and everybody's rich. There's so many different things you can do, so many options that you have available, and that's what I love about it. So that is my number 11, Feast for Odin, a heavier worker placement, Uwe Rosenberg in his big box game series, and that's my personal favorite with the Norwegians expansion as well. And so there you go. That is my number 20 through 11. Next episode will be the final episode of my top 40, the 10 through 1. So stay tuned for that. Hoping to have that out here pretty soon for you guys. If you have any questions about any of the games you saw here, be sure to let me know those in the comments below. Share your top 20 through 11 if you have that available. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you on the next one. Take care.